1, 2, 3. We're officially in the middle of the year 2025. Let's check in. Okay, so I have here a pile of books. These are the books I've read so far in 2025, and I thought I want to share it with you. So we're doing a mid-year reading check, but before that, I want to share some of my shenanigans. Just in time when I left the house, it started raining. It's still raining. I guess it's the vibe. Is it the vibe? I also picked up new books recently. I've been, trying to source some books on my TBRs that I prefer, especially those with vintage covers. I recently just got this. One of my favorite books of all time, The Red Pony, in this vintage cover. It's so pretty, right? I'm just in a cafe, but I actually have a tattoo appointment. And I thought I'll just, grab a coffee and actually I grab a matcha and some bread just so I could ease my veins. We just got 2 additional tattoos. Well, I've been resonating on getting these tattoos. These are just minimal tattoos. I got my birth year here and an ode to a Bible verse, the John 3:16 Bible verse. It says, "Beloved," which just feels so dear to me. I don't know. It's just a reminder of God's love and the love I deserve, I guess. that's something new. I was just doing my mid-year check-in journal prompts. I'm not yet fully dwelled into it, so I might continue later or some other time. Alright, let me do a self check-in first. So I'm just wearing my Super 8 Tour t-shirt. Happy 3 years. The Super 8 album, André. And I'm just wearing some dogs. Socks. We feel cute. We feel cute. Obviously, the reason for this video is to talk about the books I've read, and I've just been, happy with my reading journey. Last year, I read 12 books in 12 months of 2024. And guess what? I read 12 books in a span of 6 months so far. So that's another win for me. Alright, so let's start this book talk. Here are 12 books I read in 2025 so far. The first category is my current read. We're still reading The Story of a New Name. I mentioned that I don't want to really rush on finishing this, so that's okay. I'm already on here. This is the continuation from the first book of the Neapolitan series by Elena Ferrante, my brilliant friend. And so far I'm loving it. I'm still loving it. They said that this is better than the first book, which is My Brilliant Friend. But let's see. I'm enjoying it so far. Has any one of you finished the Neapolitan series? Let me know. I'm still on the agenda of, sourcing the other 2 books. So yeah, that's our current read. Alright, next book we're gonna talk about is the book I've just finished. And that is Tortilla Plath by John Steinbeck. It's just a funny, easy read. It's just this thick. It was just a fun read. I'd find myself verbally laughing occasionally with the scenarios in this. The characters are so, in a way, unintentionally hilarious. I love how Steinbeck wrote the characters. I feel like Steinbeck was just having fun, being careless in a way, writing the characters and the premise of this. So this is about a group of men, impoverished men, just getting drunk, living their life, happy-go-lucky people, not bound with responsibilities or possessions in life. They just want to be drunk and be free. Apparently, one of them inherits 2 houses from his deceased grandfather, so they're defined a sanctuary for their, friendship, for their camaraderie, for their brotherhood. One thing about Steinbeck is his wisdom and philosophies inserted in these stories in his books, and that's what made me fall in love with his work. I have already established that Steinbeck is my favorite author so far. He just has his ways of telling stories that will make you think about life, and I just love how he always ends his books. It's so iconic. Alright, still talking about Steinbeck, the next category I'm going to talk about are the books that exceeded my expectations. It's Steinbeck's The Pearl and The Red Pony. I have no idea about Steinbeck's writing back then, about Steinbeck's work back then, and I was just browsing books into this open bookstore in Venice, and I found this. I initially was attracted to its cover, I love this edition. I've been trying to collect Steinbeck's books in this edition, so that's a mission. So yeah, I pick it up. I was initially double thinking on getting this because I don't know, I just had no idea back then about Steinbeck's, but I made the right decision on picking this up. So first, let's talk about The Pearl. It's a story about a small, poor family living in the ocean, near the ocean. So they live in this town, and basically their life revolves around, being simple, appreciating the sunlight, appreciating the ocean waves, appreciating what they have already. They were kind of introduced as this family that is already contented with what they have. But then the father, whose name was Kino, is it Kino? Yeah, it was Kino. Suddenly found the pearl of the pearl, the pearl of the world, the greatest pearl of all time. And right at that moment, what it seemed to be a contented life became a lie because this pearl suddenly, opened up Kino's dreams, ambitions, and the potential that, their family can achieve and attain in life with this pearl. So, the rest of the story tells about how this pearl has brought Kino's family his fortune or his demise. So, I don't want to spoil it. It was a good read. It's my first introduction to Steinbeck's work, and after reading it, it made me, you know, research more about Steinbeck's writings and books. Hence why I am now in the mission of, reading all his works. Yep. Then we have The Red Pony. Actually, I'm gonna hold this. I read The Red Pony here because I just recently got this copy, but this is The Red Pony. I gave this 5 stars unexpectedly. I thought it was just a normal story, a normal nice read. I mean, from the title, I had no idea what story is it going to relay, what story it's going to bring me. So it did surprise me good. As I mentioned, I'm saying this is already one of my best books of all time. I don't have a list yet, but it is already on my list. So basically, this is a story about a boy named Jody. I think he's 10 years old, and he lives in this California ranch with his family. And then his father gifted him a red pony. That moment somehow marks the switch of Jody's life from childhood to adolescenthood. For me, the red pony symbolizes his introduction to, responsibilities and his pursuit for greatness. Talks about how men are afraid to be seen as weak and vulnerable. This novel just has a lot of elements of, family, compassion, and redemption. I would find myself questioning life every after chapters that I read. I need a break. Alright, moving on to our best book reads so far. I have a lot, but this is going to be in no particular order. First is Ocean Vuong's Night Sky with Exit Wounds. I read this in the beginning of the year because I wanted to read and feel something beautiful, and I feel like Ocean Vuong is just the right person to save me. And I got my friend André to buy this for me straight from Vietnam. I guess I would regard this book as a book about longing, longing, and longing. It just made me long for something that I don't know yet, but I loved it. I loved feeling longing for something that I do not know. It just made me feel alive and pure and humble as I read this, and a little bit teary. Reading every poem in this collection just made me think about life and made me love life even more. He just has his ways of making you know, appreciate life more amidst its tragedy and ugliness, but at the same time, its beauty and worthiness. Next book is Paradais by Fernanda Melchor. I got this in the Fitzcarraldo edition. I kind of like the other cover as well, the one with the fruit. But yeah, I don't know. I didn't particularly enjoy reading this, but I added this to one of my best book reads because I think it's good as a whole. I said it's not enjoyable probably because of the characters. You know, the characters are just so dirty and trash and annoying in their own way. But I think it was purposely made or written to be like that. The story is indeed dirty and sinful and trashy and mad. If you're into that kind of topics or premise in a book, this is going to be a good recommendation for you. So basically we follow the story of two teenage boys, Franco and Fatboy, if I can recall. And Franco works in this housing complex called Paradais, and Fatboy lives with his grandparents in Paradais. So Paradais is like the center place where the story. And you know, these two unfortunate boys are so annoyed with each other, and both of them, you know, decided to bond and plot this dirty act. The writing here is so thrilling and contagious, like literally you wouldn't find any punctuation. There's kind of a feeling of rush and energy in that sense. Guys, I hope you can still hear me because I'm in a cafe, so basically there's people around while I'm talking. Alright, next book is Call Me By Your Name by André Aciman. This is a major book about yearning. Elio is just the ultimate yearner for me. I've never read any character that yearns so much than Elio so far. And you know, I guess everyone is already familiar with the story and the premise of this book. And I'm just gonna say that André Aciman has a beautiful take on impressing the feeling of, you know, wanting someone so bad. And the last book of this category is Open Water by Caleb Azumah Nelson. Actually, I would say this is on top of the list of my best book reads so far. In surface, it gives me Sally Rooney meets Ocean Vuong vibes because, you know, Caleb Azumah Nelson just writes poetically in his own way. He just writes with heart, with pureness and ache. So basically this is about two black people, both are artists, and they met in a pub in London one night, and you know, it's kind of a depiction of love at first sight. So basically their meeting was the start of their relationship that was built as days goes by. I would say this is a no plot kind of book. I love how in scenes where they would talk about each other, they would open up about each other, I would find myself a little bit teary with how would they express their emotions toward each other. This is somewhat an important piece because it does not only talk about how beautiful the heart of a black person is, but it made you see them in through their eyes. The prejudice, the discrimination that they experience every day. I think it was relayed here effectively in a way that they just think about your perspective and decisions in life and just made you realize that it's okay to be kinder. Okay, so we're down to our last category. I would say these books are not bad books at all. They just didn't meet my expectations. So the first book on this list is Madonna in Furcoat by Sabahattin Ali. I forgot to bring it with me. I left it at home, but this book has been on my FYP For You page. Everybody apparently was reading it. Well, it's a beautiful book, indeed. It's also a story about yearning and romance, unrequited love. But, you know, Elio is still my ultimate yearner. I feel like how the man yearns in this book did not meet the kind of yearning Elio expressed in Call Me By Your Name. But yeah, in context, it's a story about an immigrant Turkish man who decided to live in Germany, if I'm not mistaken. And he went into this exhibit and was entranced by a beautiful painting, the Madonna in a fur coat. So, you know, he just went there in the exhibit every day until one time he was introduced to the actual lady, the actual person in the painting, the Madonna in a fur coat. Conveniently, they kind of like each other. They, you know, continuously met up and spent time together. But these two characters are just not meant for each other. They're just not a match for each other. The guy is so quiet and unexpressive with his emotions, with his intentions and feelings. At least that's what I receive as I read it. And the girl, Maria, the Madonna in the fur coat, is this strong-willed woman, definitely knows what she wants, definitely has to say on things. There's a particular context or paragraph that I love in this book, and it's when Maria gave a good read about men. I'd like to give her a clap on that. I couldn't imagine that being written by a male author because it's like, you know, a stab in yourself. I just don't think it's that iconic in a way. I mean, I'm sure there's still better stories relayed with the same sentiment, but I still gave it 4 stars, as I recall. Next is Death in Venice. It is by Thomas Mann. So it's Death in Venice in a collection of other stories, but I only read Death in Venice. And indeed, it is a scandalous book because the premise is about a middle-aged man. He's in his, is it early 50s or his late 50s? And this man was infatuated by a teenage, not even a teenager, a young boy. Yeah, probably a teenager, 13 years old. It's a telling of a growing obsession that led to somebody's end. Hence the title of the book. So I think it's for you to figure it out if you want to read this. It is quite unexceptional because I thought it's brave for somebody to write something that deals with this kind of topic. I also love the other elements in this book that talks about art and appreciating beauty, but somehow my interest was clouded by the writing, or probably it's the translation because it's a bit descriptive and deep. Somehow it became a barrier for me to get through and liking this book. Yeah. Alright, next book is Claudia Pinheiro's Elena Knows. Yeah, I guess it just didn't meet my expectation. It's about a mother's journey on finding out who's the killer of her deceased daughter who committed the S word. This woman, this mother, isn't convinced that her daughter took her life. Here we follow her one-day journey to finding out the answer to this question that she's eager to unveil. I just found some parts of this book a little bit corny or cheesy. So yeah, it is a fast-paced book read. I just thought the latter part felt a little flat. So last two on the list, we have Sylvia Plath's The Melchor. Did not meet my expectation. I really wanted to like this book because ever since I ran into that portion of this book, that passage about the story of the fig tree, I just love how that story of the fig tree relates how we humans are so innate to, reach our full potential and try other things but are limited by our time on earth. A lot of people love and appreciate this book, but I just don't find that much appreciation and love for this book the way other people do after reading this. I just don't think the writing is exceptional, and I just don't care about Sylvia's character in this book. I don't know if I'm supposed to say that. I just don't want to discredit anyone who's experiencing the same kind of situation. But I just didn't care much about Esther and her endeavors and her situation. The writing is just tone deaf and racist and bullyish. Okay, last book is Bad Habit by Alana Portero. So here we follow the story of a young trans girl living in the suburb community of Madrid. And here she narrates her life and the story of the lives of the people in her neighborhood and the people that she encountered and met that somehow contributed to what she has become. This is a good read in a sense that I see it as an homage to sisterhood in the community, especially in the trans community, and I see it as an ode, the author's ode to women in her life, or in the life of the character at least. I think it's what lies deep down in this novel, somebody's pursuit for belongingness, which is kind of a familiar topic in queer literature. I think what's the deal breaker for me in reading this is the author's style of writing. She writes beautifully and poetically with an element of fantasy and mythical prose, which I find myself not really a fan of. I felt like it's done too much, and not pretentiously, but just too much. But overall, it's a nice story to be shared for people's awareness about what a trans person is going through, especially in the old days. I think another thing I like is how my femininity and my bad habit to my affection for are seen in this book, so I'm caught. Here are the books we read in the half year 2025 so far. Happy reading, guys. Thank you for showing around. And kudos self. You've overcome your fear of filming in public. Just gonna leave this on for a while